no shoulding.
Oh, that is the biggest swear word. It's so full of judgment. Oh, I hate that word. As soon as you should on somebody, you tell somebody, oh, you should do this, or maybe you should downsize, or maybe you should. It's laced with judgment, and it puts you in a different position from somebody else, and it doesn't really allow them to fully explore what it is they need to do. So instead, if you do have something that you want to share with somebody financially, what might work is if you say, here's what worked in my experience, and you share from that perspective. That also will really help you learn and grow.
I think when you were upstairs, I hope you told mom that. No more should. Like Joe and OG should get out of my basement. Do not should on us.
That's right.
Please. No, we belong here.
From Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and I think most of us don't tell the people who are on our air quote board of directors that they're on our board. Joe, I know I'm pretty much the chairman of your board, but you've never once told me that I'm on your board of directors.
You have any words, coach, for the team?
Rah, rah, ree. Kick him in the knee. Rah, rah, ras. Kick him in the other knee.
Wow, he has never coached a team in his life.
Go out there and bite him in the kneecaps.
We just got to go out there and play our game, and stick to the fundamentals and just do what we do best. Just focus.
If we score more touchdowns than the other team, we will win, kids. We will win. Let's talk about how we're misusing credit in America.
First of all, people think credit is money. Start there. It's not. The most dangerous thing in my wallet today, Joe, is my American Express Black Card. Because this thing here, and it's sexy, and it looks nice, and it's pretty, there's no limit on it. But that's not even a credit card. This is a charge card, which means in 30 days, I gotta pay the whole balance. A lot of people get in trouble. You start seeing celebrities in their bankruptcies and people who won the lottery, whatever. You see this credit card stuff because they thought this was an extension of their wallet. It's not meant to be an extension on your annual compensation.
Hey there, stackers. And you know what's funny is I have that hat right here because we're about to talk to David Gardner in the next few days for the Stacking Benjamin Show. David Gardner, of course, of Motley Fool fame. So we had that on today and had some fun, but that weird dance of mine is from way back FinCon a couple of years ago when I was the main stage speaker. But anyway, welcome to our HSA training, everybody. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy. I'm super happy you're here with me. I love doing these trainings. It's super fun. We did training. Maybe some of you were here for it. In the places where we have meetup groups, we did a virtual training about Morningstar last week. So I hope to be doing these much more often, at least once a quarter for everyone, and then once a quarter again for people in our meetup groups where we have one. If you don't have people you meet up with and you want to have some local communities, write me, joe@stackingbenjamins.com, and we could talk about how to do that. But we're not going to talk meetup groups tonight, are we? We're going to talk about how to get what you want from your HSA, the HSA basics. So let me take just a second here and get this set up. So here we go, I think. All right. So let's chat for a second about what we're doing tonight and what we're not doing tonight. So first of all, if you're here for bigger lessons, if your goal is not just HSAs, your goal is, I don't understand my benefits. HSAs are a part of it. I think that's the first thing to know. It is one of the first things to know. But if you're here for bigger lessons, we have a guide, which is our workplace benefits guide. I'm going to save you about an hour of your time, because if you just go to stackingbenjamins.com/guide, you will be able to find out how to dovetail all of your choices inside of the workplace benefits. And I want to mention that right up front for two reasons. A, like I said, I don't want to waste your time. And B, we're not going to be talking at all about the guide or about where this fits until the very end. I like trainings that are valuable, that are helpful, that are things where you can take home and implement them right away. And I also like knowing what I can do later, but I also like that at the end. So at the end, we'll talk more about this workplace benefits guide and what's in it. But until we get there, one piece of what's in it is the HSA. So let's dive into the agenda. You're going to know by the end of tonight what exactly is an HSA. And if you know how we talked about this is HSA 101, guys. So if you're looking for advanced HSA tips, this is not what we're doing this evening. We may do that in a future training, but tonight it's going to be all about the basics of using your HSA. What type of insurance do you need? Hopefully you'll know what type fits you best, whether a high deductible health plan is best for you, or one of the more traditional types, the upsides and downsides of the HSA, and determining if the HSA itself is right for you. The thing we won't cover this evening, this isn't going to be what I think is the most important part and what we talk a lot about on our podcast. For those of you that don't know me, I just kind of marched into this, didn't I? I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, and I'm the creator of the podcast Stacking Benjamins, and one of the co-hosts of our show here. But on our podcast, we talk about all the time that you really should have everything works so much better if it dovetails. If you don't treat your financial plan like it is a buffet. Instead, if it all works together, this is not going to do that. But you'll get a better idea of where it goes in your financial plan if you're not comfortable with your HSA yet. It's also not going to tell you point blank if an HSA is a fit, because we're not really talking a lot tonight about the other types of insurances, just about the HSA. And while we will go over the gigantic, for some people, and pretty darn good tax benefits for other people, we're not going to give any tax advice tonight. So those things. Now, I will be able to take a look at your questions as we go, and glad to see we got people from all over the place. Paul is here from down the road in Louisiana, and Chris from Michigan, but in Pennsylvania, Florida, Mr. Between the Gram from Florida, Kentucky, Madison, San Diego, and Savannah, Georgia. And yes, Gary, that's why you don't have OG here, is because it is past his bedtime. But I will check from time to time the questions. So feel free to ask questions. As I mentioned earlier, my main goal is to make sure that you leave here knowing what the HSA is. And I got nothing planned after this. So if you need to stay around and get more afterwards, feel free to ask me questions till you go home with just as much knowledge as you'd like about this. All right. And then James, you're right. If you're not careful, you might just learn something. So let's start off with what you need to learn here, stackers, which is what is a health savings account. So a health savings account is a part of a duo. Most health insurance options are singular. You don't need anything else to go with them. So let's take a look at them. On the left here, you've got traditional coverage. We don't see that very much anymore. It's very expensive for companies to provide. It is, gives you everything. But with the increasing cost of healthcare the past 15 years, I see fewer and fewer traditional. Of course, most people will have PPOs and HMOs on the more traditional side of insurance, and those stand by itself. But a health savings account is meant to be paired by this one on the right, which is called a high deductible health plan. And it's a 1-2 punch. A high deductible health plan is a rotten choice if you don't have a health savings account, and you're not allowed to have a health savings account without pairing it with the high deductible health plan in the beginning. So when it comes to the health savings account, the IRA, the HSA is part of a pair, and the other ones on the left don't have a pair. And why is it a pair? Well, let's go into that. A high deductible health plan, take a look at these numbers. The deductible is greater than $1,650 for singles or $3,300 for family coverage. Those are your deductibles. Those are some pretty monster deductibles that you'll have for your average high deductible health plan. And again, you can get ones that have higher deductibles than that, but that is the beginning. You're also going to have some co-insurance cost after that. So the pain doesn't end at $3,300 or $1,650. After that, the plan is still going to have a percentage maybe that you pay or out-of-pocket expenses that you pay, and those are all going to change. But you can see how the money adds up really quick. Now, the good news is that things like physicals and other preventative care is still covered. And whenever I have counseled people about HSAs and HDHPs, I've recommended strongly that you look into all the preventative care stuff and take advantage of it. Because as you're going to see, if you're very, very healthy, this high deductible health plan works really well. It can work if you're not as healthy, but definitely you want to do as much preventive medicine as possible. And because, by the way, there's less coverage, it's also then less expensive. That right there, this part right here, less coverage equals less expensive. This is, guys, the reason why I see so many people choose these high deductible plans. And it actually, frankly, is a little frustrating because who I see use this plan too often, not in our community where I think we use it really well in the financial geek community, but outside of that, I feel like people use it the wrong way because they don't have much money. They choose a high deductible health plan. This HSA thing, yeah, I don't care. I'm just trying to pay as little as possible for minimal coverage. That means they take on more risk. And sadly, even back when I was a financial planner, I would see people in my office even then, and it was absolutely horrible to see people that had huge medical bills because they had gone cheap. There's a lot of places to go cheap in your life. I think your healthcare is really a difficult place. And certainly some people still have to, but we don't want to just go cheap. You really have to do the 1-2 punch here. On the other side is the HSA. Now, the HSA allows pre-tax addition. So you're going to put money into it pre-tax. What's that money for? That money is specifically meant to be there to cover that deductible and cover that co-insurance. So those two things, boom, boom, together, you want to be able to cover with the HSA. You can then use it tax-free for expenses. In fact, some people have debit cards right with their HSA, so they can just spend the money out of the debit card and it's pre-tax when they use it. Here's a big key. after age 65, and we'll talk about when we turn this into a rocket ship and how cool this plan can be. We're going to do just a little bit of 201 near the end of tonight. After 65, you can use it for anything, but it's not going to be tax-free. It's going to be tax deferred. So you can use it for whatever you want. Now, if you still use it after 65 for health related expenses, still can be tax-free. In fact, you can use it for Medicare Advantage, a couple of the Medicare portions, I believe B and D, you can use it for tax-free. So this could end up being, if you do it correctly, could be a lifelong healthcare system that you've created for yourself, some insurance that you have for yourself. Alabasada says, and we'll put this up, we don't get access to an HP, but our deductible is just under 3,000. So we get the best, we get the worst of both worlds. That is not good. Sorry to hear about that. Let's move into then really the strategy here. And this isn't a strategy that just stackers. It isn't just for the HSA. This is a government sponsored plan that I think does a lot of things right that we can mimic in other cases. You know, OG and I on the podcast and on our YouTube page, we have talked a lot about not waiting for the government to make a move for you to make a move. But in this case, heck, when something works, why wouldn't we mimic this? Because an HSA is really an account that's going to help us self-insure. It's going to lower our cost on our health insurance. We're going to build up a fund of money that is to cover our health related expenses. Why wouldn't I do this in other areas of my life? And it's just a quick 2 steps. I create a separate fund that I earmark just for that thing, the separate bucket of money, and I use it only for that need. So as an example, car insurance, we could do this with, right? We could raise our deductibles on our car insurance once we have our car insurance fund sitting aside. This is just for the car. So whatever the thing is, I like bucketing, not because it's efficient, but I like it because it's effective. As humans, and we put these titles on these things, we use it specifically for that title. 401k, we put in our retirement money. We think of 401k. We think of Roth IRA as retirement money. Some people think of it as college money. Don't like it for college. You can use it for other things, but Roth and IRA, we use those things. We think of them in our head as retirement. Most of us, we think of HSA as health insurance money. So those things together, we can definitely use. And I like this just as a strategy overall in your overall financial plan. All right. The downsides of the high deductible plan. You can already see you're going to need to set aside lots of money for your healthcare and for healthcare emergencies. And if you don't fund it enough, this is when I see people get into just heaps of trouble. And the biggest downside of all is this one that I list on the bottom, which is that I see people who decide not to get treatment. They don't go to the doctor because they're afraid they're going to pay more. They have a high deductible plan, and because of that, they just don't go to the doctor. It is super important. It is, this whole thing is not to have more money if you're not healthy. The average healthy life expectancy in America is 66 years old. We don't want to be done at 66, if at all possible. We want to be able to do more throughout our lifetime. And so I fear that these high deductible health plans for some people causes them to delay coverage. They may not get the lump checked out. They may not get the problem they can feel in their bones or whatever it might be, might not get that checked out because they have a high deductible plan. Do not do that. Psychologically, I think that is the downside for some people. And over on the right, a lot of people that you'll see online will tell you that these plans are great for people who are very healthy. And certainly I'll show you in a few minutes where if you're super healthy, they're very effective. They can still be effective for people who are not, because if you're not that healthy, one expert said, listen, if you're going to blow out that deductible right away and your copays are about the same as they are for the other insurances that you're offered at work, well, then the high deductible plan might be the way to go. You might actually save money. So I can see the spreadsheet. I don't know which way this is going to come out for you, but let's walk through the spreadsheet. You've got the cost of the high deductible plan and the money to cover all of your co-insurances and your deductible, right? On the high deductible / HSA side. On the other side, you have the cost of the PPO and then whatever your copays are going to be there. And when you compare those two, you might end up, even if you're going to go to the doctor quite a bit, being better off with the HDHP and the HSA together. So I would do that math before you decide that it doesn't work. But it truly is fantastic if you don't run into any health trouble at all. All right. Funding your health savings account. This is the next step. So now we have decided we're going to take out the high deductible plan, and now we're going to fund the HSA to be that part of it. And as I mentioned, some people that are trying to save money underfund it. Hopefully by the end of today, you will see that the best way to do this, just like the few people every year who need permanent life insurance, the best way to use that is to overfund it, which by the way, blows people's mind. They're like, wait, I got to pay more for life insurance. No. Your life insurance can actually cost more if you put more money in. What are you talking about? It's the same thing here. It's actually a little different here, but it's similar in the way that putting a ton of money in the HSA is great, which by the way, also means an HSA works really, really, really well if you've got good cash flow. If your cash flow isn't that great and you're much more month to month, it might be a struggle to get the health savings account up and running, which you're going to need to do to make this really effective. But funding it is super easy. If you don't have one yet, you don't know this. If you do have one, you know how easy it is. It's just like your 401k, your 403b, your 457, whatever that is. The money comes out of your paycheck, direct deposit pre-tax into the HSA savings account. Now, the good news is that some employers also give you a match on your HSA, or they pre-fund part of it for you. They cover part of the funding because insurance companies and employers want you to choose this option. And so they may give you money inside of your HSA for choosing this option. Man, even if they don't do that, if you're fairly healthy, I like it. And as I mentioned, if you're not, the spreadsheet, if you don't, but on your part, with the part that you put in, even if you feel like your work will put in enough to cover the deductible and whatever you spend, I would still put money into the HSA because of the fact that this money can be so flexible for you down the road. I can contribute quite a bit of money. If it's self-only care, you can contribute up to $4,300. And then notice back a few screens ago, and in fact, let me just go back. See if I can go back. Nope, not going back. Here we go. Let's go back. Your numbers. Where is the numbers, guys? Here it is. There it is. $1,650 is the deductible. So they're giving you quite a bit of money for the coinsurance plus extra, which could be for next year, $8,500 for family coverage. So absolutely super, the amount that you can put in. And I would recommend that you do this. And it's funny because people are like, okay, Joe, you said you get to pay for this stuff pre-tax, but what does that actually mean, right? Is pre-tax really that big a deal? Well, if we take a person in an average tax bracket and average state, right? They have the average state tax, and I put state tax state. Let's say you put $5,000 in over the course of just over a year. 22% tax bracket is the average person. 5% is the average state tax in America. 7.65. Oop, I got an errant comma in there. You will end up with $3,269. that you can use on your medical stuff. But because it's pre-tax and it's going to come out tax-free, you actually have the full $1,500. So we're looking at a $1,700 difference between taxable and tax. This is a huge difference for the average person. So if you have the ability to put money in the HSA to get these benefits pre-tax, you're looking at a ton of money. Of course, we look at things according to something we call the tax triangle when we look at investments. And OG and I really like all three of these buckets. We like one for today. We like this one for today, and I'll explain what these are in a second. We like this one to give you flexibility in the future, and we like this one to give you flexibility all the time. So what are these? Well, the tax triangle, these are three different types of tax treatments on your investments. And outside of the triangle is your life before you spend the money, and afterwards is when you spend it. Generally for this, it's in retirement, but for healthcare, it's going to be a little different story. It might be later on this year. So let's start off down here. Traditionally, people put money into a fund where it goes in pre-tax through work. And when they pull it out, which is going to be subject to a bunch of IRS provisions, you have to be either fully retired or for an IRA over 59 and a half. There's all kinds of rules about how you can take it out. This is pre-tax money going into a 401k, a 403b, a 457, your basic workplace plan, right? Huge advantage today because it's pre-tax. You're going to get hammered later on. And we have to then look at how we take money out later because of really two ankle biters when it comes to taxation of our money in retirement. And one is IRMA. And by the way, I'm not going to get into either one of these. And the other is tax on your Medicare. So boom, boom, you got two of them right there. So that is problematic. The great today, problematic later. So if you can bite the bullet, well, it's better to go in after tax, maybe suck up the tax now, and then later on, it's all going to be tax-free when you pull it out. This is going to be the Roth IRA. This will be municipal bonds. This could be some types of permanent life insurance are in here. And those each have their downside, right? The Roth IRA, again, just like the pre-tax money, you've got all of these IRS rules you have to follow on when you can get the money and how you can take it out. Of course, with life insurance, you got to buy the life insurance, and it's super complicated how that works. And with municipal bonds, they don't earn much, number one. And number two is, even though they're tax-free, it still is not exempt from tax on your Social Security. So if you load up on those, you might end up paying tax anyway. So you've got those problems here, which is why I really like the flexibility of this one here on the side, which is after tax. When you've got money that is after tax, it means it's just in a brokerage or savings account. Well, sure, you're going to pay tax on the dividends and on the gains, but you only pay a capital gain when you pull the money out. You're going to pay a little bit of tax. There's going to be some friction, but you can do whatever the heck you want. So why am I bringing this up right here? Well, I'll tell you why I'm bringing it up, guys. I'm bringing it up because this is amazing. I was looking for the right word when it comes to the HSA. The HSA is pre-tax going in, and it's tax-free for your expenses, healthcare related expenses coming out. So we're getting this type of treatment in, the goodness over here, and we're getting the goodness coming out over here. That is an amazing advantage that I can't get anywhere on the tax triangle. Now, I have to segregate the money. I have to use it for healthcare expenses, but I mean, you really have two choices when it comes to healthcare, right? Choice number one is you're either going to not get sick, which is that going to happen, or you have a fund in place for when you do get sick. So I think that when it comes to healthcare, it's just a matter of when, not if, for all of us. And think about this pre-tax issue now. Now I don't just have the 5,000 when it's in, right? So going in, I get to put in 5,000. If it's a Roth, I've got to pay all this and get down to $3,200 before I can put the money in. If I'm all these averages here with the HSA, I get to put in the full 5,000. With the pre-tax, I go in 5,000, but then I still have to pay the federal. I still have to pay the state. Don't have to pay the FICA, but I still have to pay these two. And now I'm still at a number north of that, but definitely south of 5,000. Still not as good. But here I'm 5,000 in, 5,000 out if I spend it right away. So the fact that this is pre-tax, tax-free is what makes the HSA really sing. Now, the HSA is one of two plans that you can choose to use in a given year at your employer. And some employers have both of these. They have something called an FSA, a flex savings account, and they have an HSA, a health savings account. So these two things are not created equal. Which one's better? Well, let's walk through them. The flex savings account, you decide how much money to put in. It pays your health related expenses. There's a huge list of things that you can get from your employer. You can look up on any website that, and by the way, it's always expanding. Just a year and a half ago, they just made it even better, where even for women, many of the feminine products that were not considered as eligible for FSA now are. Paying. So it pays these health related expenses, comes with a debit card. The problem with the FSA is that at the end of the period, and guys, I wish this was uniform. It used to be uniform. It hasn't been uniform for several years. It depends on your company. There's so many exceptions. During COVID, they changed it, but you have a cutoff date every year at which time you will lose your FSA money if you haven't spent it. And what I've seen is this creates kind of a boom bust cycle where you're buying a bunch of stuff ahead of time that you didn't need, or you're just wasting money, just trying to make sure that you got the money's worth out of the FSA, or frankly, you just lose it, which is the worst of all the options. The HSA pays those same health related expenses. Most of them still come with a debit card, so it's fairly easy, and cover deductibles. Now, the cool thing is, because of the fact that you do not have to use it this year, you could buy something this year, and then a few years down the road, you could claim it. So as long as you keep receipts, you don't have to use that debit card. You could just pay for it using cash. And then 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whenever the heck you want, you can use that receipt to claim that tax-free expense on a future purchase down the road. So in other words, you could use that money at a time when it's more advantageous to you than using it right now. So HSAs can accumulate, FSAs do not accumulate. And this creates really something really nice because we can keep the money in the HSA. Let's say that I have a year where I don't have many health related expenses. If I don't have a lot of health related expenses this year, and let's say I spend $500 or maybe $250, I spend $250, I can either use that money and then just leave the rest of the money in the HSA. Or let's say I put $3,000 in the HSA. I leave the other $2,750 in the HSA. That could be money for next year. Or the $250, I just pay for that out of pocket, and I save the whole $3,000 for later. I could do that too. So there's a lot more flexibility on the HSA than there is with the FSA. Let's take a look at your questions, because I have been, I have you guys can't see my setup here, but I've got your questions covered up by what I can see. So let's see what we've got here. Paul says, can you use it for Medicap coverage? What I can use it is for Part B, Part D, and for Medicare Advantage. Medigap specifically, I don't think so. And in fact, I'm going to pull up my favorite site on this. Just give me just a second. It was funny. Yeah, it's actually exactly what I thought. I just wanted to confirm that no, it is not. So you cannot use it with Medigap. Aaron has Gary maxed out, brother, and I'm your age. Nice job, Gary. High five to Gary. Aaron, do you recommend keeping a certain amount in your HSA as a cash position rather than having invested? This would be for any medical expenses. Aaron, I'm glad you asked that because we are getting there, brother. That is going to be the strategies on how kind of 201 on how to use. And I mentioned there's going to be very little 201, but that is something we will talk about here in just a moment. Jason asks if we typically are more aggressive with normal investments. Do you suggest using the same strategies or go more conservative, maybe with a target date fund? I know you don't like them. You know, what's funny is that a target date fund may work better here, Jason, than in your normal asset allocation. Because of the fact that really this is money that you may need sooner rather than later, and we're not sure what bucket it goes into. I think that I think a target date fund might actually work here. I kind of prefer, again, that you build your own. But I think that if there were a place for a target date fund, this is a better one. So we're going to get back to Aaron's question. Jason, we're actually going to go more into the investing portion of this because I haven't even introduced that yet. So that's coming. Laura says, how do prescriptions work? Is there a copay or do you pay the full cost of the medicine? The answer depends actually on your high deductible health plan. Period, full stop. So when I went over high deductible health plans, they're not all built the same. So you want to dive into, and specifically what you want to ask is, what are the preventative things that they cover? What is the deductible? Because I told you what the bottom deductible would be, but it could also be higher than that. What are the copays going to be? And then the next question really is, what does it cover? And that's going to be, by the way, part of the copay. It's going to say, well, prescriptions, you're on your own, or prescriptions, it's 50-50, or prescriptions, it's whatever it might be. So that's going to depend plan to plan. So you want to check with your plan. Allison says, in order to use HSA funds, does the medical expense need to occur while I'm covered by an HDHP? The answer, Allison, and this is kick-ass, and this is going into the second half of this, now that we've kind of done the foundation, is no. You do not have to have it anymore. If you've got the HSA in place and the high deductible plan is gone, you're still going to be able to use those funds later on. It's really, I can't think of another word, but kick-ass. So fantastic question. All right, let's keep going. I love that we're nerding out over this stuff. All right. So let's take this, as we just mentioned, and you guys are on the same wavelength. Let's turn this into a rocket ship. Let's say, all right, this HSA thing, now that we got the basics, how do we use it to go even further? And the answer is in this whole idea of what if I don't spend it? And I think, was it Aaron or Jason who brought up the idea of an investment account? So here's the deal, guys. If you've got this money sitting there, what a lot of people do is it sits and it earns an interest rate that is very low. Usually it's less than inflation. And so it deteriorates. And if you're not going to spend the money this year, we don't want it to deteriorate. So what we can do is we can either make a call or we can just get on the website, usually the easier way, right? And we can transfer it over to another portion of our HSA, which is the investment account. Now, not all HSAs have investment accounts. Some just have the savings account. It's a little problem. It's not a deal breaker. And we'll go into that here in a second, because even if you're, well, and let me finish that thought. If you have an investment account, it might be a pretty crappy one. You might look at those investments and go, oh my goodness, these are super high fees. I really don't want anything to do with these investments. Well, here's the cool thing. You are allowed to have a second HSA. Your HSA can be portable, different than your 401k. Some 401ks have a thing called an in-service withdrawal where they'll let you take some of it and make it portable so you can take it wherever you want. Don't see that a ton, but sometimes you're able to do that. In the case of an HSA, HSAs are portable. You can leave a minimum amount in your company's HSA and you can move the rest wherever you want. And so now you've got the full world of HSAs open to you when it comes to the investment side. I don't see a reason to have two different savings accounts. If yours gets a crappy interest rate on the savings, it is not going to be worth whatever phone calls you make and paperwork you fill out, whatever it's going to take to get that new savings account portion open, right? Where you're going to be spending, forget about that. But the investment side, if you're max funding the HSA every year and you're not pulling out a lot of it and you're saving the money for later to build up, well, heck, now that juice, as mom says, may be worth the squeeze. In fact, let's take a look at this. You're allowed to have an HSA account wherever you'd like, not only through the company your employer provides. Morningstar, and we've had them on our podcast before talking about this. Morningstar, for those of you that don't know, third-party independent rating service, probably the most respected rating service of any of mutual funds and exchange traded funds in the world. Morningstar rates Fidelity's HSA as their number one choice. For the investment portion, for the savings account portion and ease of use, it's actually Bank of America's that they rate as number one. Bank of America's investment side, they don't like at all. So you could have, as an example, let's say you have Bank of America. Bank of America does a great job on the savings account side. If your employer works with them, great. Take the money that you know you're not going to spend this year and move it over to Fidelity. So to answer the question that was asked by Zerai, I'm not going to be able to cover that tonight. That's more 301. And as I mentioned, I'm going to try to stick with the basics tonight. But if you want to email me, feel free, joe@stackingbenjamins.com, and I'm happy to talk more about it. Let me go back to Jason's question right here. Nope. It's well, Jason's and Aaron's. Aaron's question. So do you recommend keeping a certain amount in your HSA as a cash position rather than having it invested? And the answer is yes. I want my money for this year in cash, and I may want my money for next year in cash. So I may want, I think about, much like I do with any other investment I have, I want to have enough money. This is meant to be in my self-insurance. So I want that in cash. If I move next year's money over to the investment side, well, I want to keep it very conservative in case I have a big need for that money, right? If I got to go get it. So let's keep at least a couple years worth of money. And most CFPs will say even 3 years worth of money, keep either in very, very low risk bonds like government bonds, Ginnie Mae's, that type of a bond fund, or in cash. And I would say mostly cash. And then begin investing after you have that piece taken care of. Yeah, lots of love here for Fidelity. It truly is. They have a great selection of stuff to choose from, and we don't have to get complicated, right? If you've been with us for a while, I mean, using just very low cost, very simple indexes. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you're going to use a target date fund anywhere, keep this our secret. We don't want the world knowing I said anything positive about a target date fund. This might be the place to use a target date fund. So absolutely super. Okay. And by the way, I like following Morningstar's re-ranking. They do it every couple of years. And so just if you go to Morningstar, maybe once a year when you're checking over your overall asset allocation, and put down in your investment policy statement. If you followed me for a while, I love this idea of when I sit down and I look at my money, I have kind of a checklist that I call my investment policy statement. How am I going to manage my stuff? One of those line items should be look at the HSA rankings. And if I have Fidelity, see how it ranks. If I have somebody else, see how it ranks, because there are quite a few good ones out there, not just Fidelity. Now, let's take a look at this. Remember this, guys? So I've got my numbers, right? But over here now, I'm investing at 10% for 20 years. So let's say I don't touch that money for 20 years, that 5,000 that I put away. So not only am I getting pre-tax over here and pre-tax over here, or excuse me, after tax over here, and I'm getting that difference. So pre-tax in, tax-free on the way out. Now I invest it for 20 years. Guess how much money that simple $5,000 is? That's $33,637.50. Imagine how much healthcare that covers. This is truly supersizing your HSA. And this is the reason why I really like maximum funding your HSA. So let's go over the rules of the road, stackers. Number one, where do we go first? First thing we do is we get the match in our 401k, our 403b, our 457. Take the free money. We sign up for the HSA if you feel like, again, that this is a fit for you. And you sign up for the HSA, hopefully your company gives you money. If they give you a match on some of the money, some just give you the money, some give you the match, take that money as well. And then before you go back to the 401k, I would go here first and make sure this is maximum funded. And the reason is once I get to age 65, I can now take money out of my HSA for anything. I can still keep those receipts and I can use it tax-free for health-related expenses. And we talked about even some of the Medicare premiums I can do. So I got a lot of healthcare stuff, but let's say that I've got a lot of money there. Heck, I put $5,000 in and that created 33 grand. Imagine I do that several years in a row where I put in the maximum that I can put in and I continue to build this fund and my money makes money. And now I've got way more than I could. This is a dream come true, isn't it? So if you're able to build that later on, you can then take money out like it's your pre-tax 401k. Where remember back on that tax triangle, the lower corner, money goes in pre-tax. And when it comes out, you're going to pay the tax. The HSA becomes more there. So it's super. Worst case scenario, it's as good as your pre-tax 401k. Love that as a strategy. Good stuff. And Aaron already answered it, but let's answer this for everybody. What happens to the HSA account if I ditch it for traditional PPO? We mentioned this earlier, Tina, but I can't believe you're not hinging on every word I say. You get to keep it. You get to use it. You get to use it. You get to keep it. Anything that's in the HSA, you can keep and you can use. And by the way, we can get pretty nerdy about HSAs. And as I mentioned earlier to somebody up to our friend Zerai, there's a lot of 301 that maybe we do another night. But I promised you 101 with a little bit of rocket fuel tonight, and that's where we're headed. So a strategy I love, a strategy I like. Let's start with the strategy I like is not the one that I have up on this slide. The strategy I like is go with the HSA and just pay for the stuff, right? Just pay for it and you get the pre-tax. That's phenomenal. But the strategy I like even better is to pay for any minimal expenses out of pocket and invest that money and then have your interest make the payments. By the way, this strategy that I love is the reason why I think some stackers that get so obsessed with the fact that no, I want this to be more money later, they don't get health treatments. The whole plan here is to be healthy. And even though I love this strategy this way, guys, do not fall into the trap of not going to see your doctor because you want to have more money. That does not end well. So that is our training, which is good. We're coming in at about 50 minutes, and I know people have some questions. I also want to talk about just for a second, I promised you at the end, I'd tell you about other ways forward. So I'm going to take a few minutes and do that. Then I'm going to circle back and answer as many questions as you have, and we'll will stay here. And once again, 101 and 201 questions tonight. We have a couple meetup groups. I think Sarai might have been at our training this last week because for Seattle and Twin Cities, we have meetup groups. We have meetup groups coming online in Boston. We're talking about putting one together in northern Chicago. So monthly, if you don't have a group of people to talk to about money and money topics, we want to have those, and we have a lot of fun. It's a simplified version of the Stacking Benjamin show. We talk about some headline in the press, and then we'll have a featured topic and Doug's trivia, do a simple giveaway. And they're super, super fun and pretty light. We have, of course, the podcast and our YouTube channel where you're seeing us now. Tina and Dan, our wonderful YouTube team, take some of the best of our podcast and they put it on YouTube. We also record the Friday shows live on Monday, so you can be a part of that. We also once a year offer a 10-week financial plan creation based on my book. That's with me. It's 10 90-minute sessions. It's a small group. It's between 20 and 30 people. You get a lot of one-on-one. We also have a private group with not just the people from that year, but the cohorts before you are in on that. And you also get all of our subject guides. But this, of course, is part of choosing your workplace benefits. We right now have 3 subject matter guides. We're coming out with 2 more. And then that's going to be all that we have. The meetup groups, I expect to have more of, certainly at least 2 more. And we're going to have 2 more guides. And then the guides are done. This isn't going to change. And of course, the podcast YouTube is going to stay the same. Our goal is to be able to find the spot where you need help and to be able to help in different ways. And then once a quarter, at least, to come on for this training and then to do additional training for people that are in our meetup groups. When it comes to the workplace benefits guide, which this topic tonight is one piece of your overall benefits. And I mentioned that the goal here is to have it all dovetail, right? Have everything that you do inside of your benefits really work in conjunction with each other. You can see how a high deductible health plan works alongside an HSA. When it comes to your medical expenses, looking at dental, mental health, optical, the stock purchase plan, strategies to use that, adoption assistance, legal assistance, paid time off. You can see there's a ton of stuff inside of the guide. And our goal here, by the way, when we created these guides was not to bury people in information. I've bought guides before that I barely opened. I know they have a treasure trove of stuff inside, but it's so dense and so not usable that we didn't want these guides to work that way. So here's the way that we made these work. It all starts with a quick start checklist. When you buy the guide, the very first page of the guide is a quick start. So if it's open enrollment time, you open the quick start, we give you a series of questions and you are going to be much more directionally accurate than 99.9% of people will be on their own when it comes to choosing the right stuff for their guide. We'll tell you what to do, what not to do. And within 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, you've chosen all the stuff without having to dive into some big, thick book. At the end of every chapter, though, let's say that you're worried just about legal assistance and maybe getting your estate plan done. There's some cool strategies around getting that done. One is an example, sign up for legal the year that you need to get your will done or your estate done. That can help pay for the legal and then cancel it the following year. There's also some downsides to that though. So we have at the end of each of the sections, if you know what you're worried about, questions to ask and what to know. Either what do I need to know or what do I need to ask my HR about what I exactly have. And this goes back really to Allison's question about prescriptions, right? What's the, what are prescriptions covered? Well, that's going to be something that you ask HR. Then of course we go into our planning ideas, me being a former financial planner, OG being a financial planner, planning ideas and questions that you may ask yourself, worksheets, and then quick links to more in-depth information at the end, Mom's Monster resource list. So for the people that really want to go deep on like, how do life insurance types work? How does disability work? It's in there. But for people that just want the quick answer, that's also right there. I can't stand subscriptions. I dislike them very, very much, but I also didn't want to create a guide that 6 months from now, for our tax guide, when this administration released the OBBB, like tax law, so many things change with taxes. And if you would have bought our tax guide before that, well, you would have been screwed with just some off the shelf thing. So this is the way that we set it up. It's created so that you keep it and you don't have to worry about it again. You buy it once, you keep it forever, and we update it monthly. It is difficult for most people, to stay up to date monthly on specific information about what's changing in the workplace benefit programs, either with your company or with you changing jobs or with the government changing the program. For us, this stuff is easy. We talk about it on the show. As I'm creating stuff for the show, I put it in the guide as well. And we're always updating the guide. So once a month, you get an email from us that says, hey, the new version of your guide is here. You click on the new one and bam, you've got the new version of the guide updated every month. And you don't have to worry about being out of date with any of it. You buy it one time. You also get discounts. I mentioned the success sessions, building your financial plan. You get discounts. Every guide that you purchase gives you a discount toward the success sessions. That is actually in reverse the other way. If you just go to the success sessions, we give you all the guides for free, because the guides are a nice addition to have when it comes to, I think you need those to continue to monitor your financial plan after you build it. So our goal is to have all of our things work in tandem. If you need surround sound, go to the meetups. If you don't have a meetup group, listen to the podcast, watch the videos. If you need help in just certain areas, take one of these 5 guides and we will update them for you so that you don't have to worry about it. And if you want to build a financial plan yourself with the help of people that have done it before, but you really want to do it yourself, you don't want to have somebody else do it, then I'll help you do that over 10 sessions. Or of course, the last piece is I've got a Get Joe's Take, and of course, OG is taking new clients a few times a year. So those are all the different things that we offer when it comes to this, building out your financial plan around this. All right, guys, that is that. I'm going to take down, well, I'll keep the slides open just in case people have questions. Sorry, my wife is texting me. This is what you get when you get live. Okay. All right. Here we go. What do we got? Let's go from the back. Aaron, you are correct. Let's put Allison's question up. This is a great question, Allison. Do the employer contributions count toward the yearly max? The answer is yes. So those annual numbers, and let's put those back on the screen, that go up every year. There we go. Whoops. Here we are. 4,300 and 8,550. Those numbers, if your employer puts money toward your plan, that's going to be part of that. Geo, if I temporarily get an HDHP, just open the HSA, can I still contribute to the HSA after going back to the traditional health plan? My understanding is no, Geo, that you cannot. It's funny because, and the reason I say my understanding, because there is some, and this is more of a 201 topic, but if you leave partway through the year, you might be able to contribute the rest for that year. You also may have a lower amount that you are allowed to put in depending on when you leave the company. So that's an issue. All right. Let's see who else we got. Gary, it's funny. I'm going backwards. I should be going forwards. Wait a bit. How does it let you manage your max out of pocket? Okay. You guys are talking about different HSA plans. I use the max out of pocket. Da, da, da. Is there any consideration for holding 2 HSAs after you get married, or should you consolidate? The answer is that if it's a self-only coverage, if it's a self-only coverage plan that you have the HSA in, you're going to have it as a self-coverage plan. If it's a family coverage, then your HSA is going to be affiliated with that family plan, and then will continue. So, I don't know. When it comes to HSAs, I think there's 2 different schools of thought. One is that you have yours and your partner has theirs, and then you use it together. The other thing that I've seen people do, though, is that they will use one as short-term money. They'll use it for money that they spend over the next few years, and the other one they crank on. So when it comes to 2 people having family care coverage, you're going to want to watch out, and you'll want to check with your HR professional at your job to make sure there's no conflict between the 2 family coverage plans. Like if you're covered under yours and you're covered under your partner's, you want to watch out for that. What if we both brought an HSA to the marriage, but then we're doing joint medical coverage? You'll be able to use your HSA for you, and they will be able to use their HSA. It sounds like these were self-only coverage plans. So the HSA is a health savings account for you. And so you're going to be able to use that for you. Now, if you change over to family coverage, let me go back to my IRS pages here. Hold on a second. Rather than me hem and haw, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go right to the source, because I have the pages. I have the IRS pages open on HSAs. Yeah. So my self-only coverage was spot on. You can contribute up to the annual individual max in your own account. If you have self-only coverage, if you have the joint coverage, then you can contribute to that. I know this isn't, by the way, what you're asking. You're asking about pre-existing. If you're both covered under the same high deductible health plan, you can split the family contribution limit between your 2 accounts. So you can put some in one and some in another. And this is what I was talking about when I was talking about maybe having one account that is for short term and one's for longer term. I did not mention, by the way, I forgot to mention, guys, if you're over 55, you get the catch up contribution of $1,000 bucks. I am not finding in here whether you could use their plan for you and your plan for them that they had before the marriage. Everything that I'm reading suggests no. If you write to me, so you give me your email address, I can look more into that. Just joe@stackingbenjamins.com, and just remind me, hey, Joe, And I can dive into that more in the morning because I don't know the answer to that, but I do know where to look, and I'm not finding it, but I can dive in more, and I'm actually interested to know too. So why don't we learn together? Yeah, Aaron is everything that I'm reading. Aaron says that that you're spot on. I just don't know. I just don't know legally what the definition is. Like if you had an HSA and now you're married, can later on it sounds like no. It sounds like if that HSA was built on self coverage, on a self coverage plan, then it can't be. All right, guys. What else do we have? Anybody else? Anybody? This was a ton of fun. Yeah, Aaron, we're going to send out an email tomorrow with a link that will have it for people that missed it, and you'll be able to revisit it so you can dive in. You can dive into it again and kind of take it home. Which brings up, by the way, I did not get to my last slide. Let's go to my last slide because, and Aaron, I'm glad that you see that. I see some people already left, but I think the best way to make this work is to do this. No matter what training that I do, I've always found it most effective to begin using it immediately. So what I'd like for you to do, I wouldn't even like for you to do, I think it's important for you to do, is at the very least, if you're not in open enrollment yet, to go into your company's benefits accounts, and take a look at your high deductible healthcare plan right now. Take a look at the HSA that is available right now, and build in your calendar when you're going to be able to do this, how you're going to make the change. And you know what? Maybe it's even better if it's not open enrollment exactly yet, or you have some time, because you can kind of build your financial plan around how am I going to have the cash flow to be able to change things to use the high deductible health plan and my HSA most effectively, right? Because I want to be able to use it as effectively as possible. And maybe I got to switch some other things around. So, but do that in the next 24 hours. Because if you don't do it right away, you're not going to use it. It was frustrating when I was a financial planner. I would tell people this after financial planning meetings: do the stuff right away. I'd call them 3 weeks later: have you done any of this? No. And then 6 months later, we're meeting again. Did you do any of the stuff? No, I didn't do it. Do it now. Get it done. Chris, thanks a lot. Aaron, thanks a lot. Everybody, thank you for coming. It's been just over an hour, so I want to keep that to an hour. Guys, I think next quarter, I don't have it on the books yet, but next quarter, this training will be year-end tax planning. So I will, as soon as I have a date for year-end tax planning, we'll do an hour on that as our fourth quarter training session. All right, guys, go stack some Benjamins, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.